Hello, everybody, and welcome to another Batman review. Today it is Season 1, Episode 14, Batman Stands Pat, which is Part 2 of the 13th Hat. And this episode, once again, brings back David Wayne as the Mad Hatter. And I have to say, this is easily my least favorite episode of the series so far. And that's because it feels like there's a lot of padding, and this episode just isn't that fun or exciting. What happened to all the fun that's usually in this show? There are a few things I really like about this episode, however, that might make it worth watching for a fan of the series and save it from being the first truly bad episode. So, we leave off with our cliffhanger, as we always do in part 2s, where Batman is stuck in the plaster, and the Mad Hatter thinks he's done Batman in, so he has the plaster removed, but it turns out Batman's still alive, and the Mad Hatter's hat kind of malfunctions, so he basically escapes for now as Batman goes and unties Robin. And the way he survived this is we find out that he held his breath. All I'll say is at least it was different than him using the utility belt again, but still pretty anticlimactic. From there is where my issues with the episode really kind of start. We get this scene in the Batcave with Batman and Robin where they're doing their detective work, and we get a lot of these in the show. And usually they're a little bit slower parts of the episode, but they're fine. They add a neat twist or concept to the episode. But in this case, it just all feels like long exposition without a lot really happening. The plot behind it isn't that interesting and feels like it could have been done in about a minute. This whole scene took about 5 minutes out of the episode. Just way too long. Batman just basically talking to the commissioner, and then he involves Alfred in the plot, which is the one thing I really did like about this episode. The scene was just felt a lot like filler and just didn't really do anything. It really kind of stalled the episode. But basically what we find out is there's one more jury member for the Mad Hatter to get, and the guy's name is Turkey. I don't know if this was supposed to be funny. I didn't really think it was funny, but others may, I guess. But basically, Batman decides he's going to have Alfred plant a transmitter in this turkey guy's hat because the Mad Hatter doesn't know Alfred, wouldn't suspect him. So even though you might say this is kind of unnecessary, why do this? It was really nice to see Alfred get an expanded role in the plot. That was one thing I really did appreciate. So then we go to this scene with Alfred and Turkey, which again plays out very slowly. It's not a bad scene, but everything in this episode seems padded and seems to take a long time, in my opinion. And Alfred, is taking notice of this guy in his hat. And then, of course, Lisa comes, the lady from the first episode working for the Mad Hatter. And she also shows interest in this turkey guy. And I have to say, this whole scene, although Lisa is a very charming character, it has some very strange dialogue. It's just an odd scene that didn't totally work for me. But what did work for me was Alfred sneaking around, eventually putting the bug in the hat, basically. He does a great job here. Maybe Batman should involve him more. And then the Mad Hatter takes the hat as Alfred basically hides. I thought this was very well done and my favorite part of the episode, and I think it saves the episode a little bit. I also kind of like what happens next. It seems like Alfred would get away with it, except the hat is accidentally dropped. So the Mad Hatter finds the transmitter, so now he knows, what Batman's up to. So he takes the hat, and he also takes Turkey in his usual method. He shoots the beam out of his hat. Like I said before, it works, but not the most creative thing ever. So this leads to Batman and Robin going to the Mad Hatter's lair. And we get another fight scene with conveyor belts and just your typical fighting with Batman and the henchmen. And I have to say, this fight was a little long and not that good, kind of like a lot of things in this episode. And eventually the Mad Hatter is taken away, and so is Lisa. They get her as well. She doesn't put up much of a fight as usual for the female henchwomen on this show, and the whole thing's just kind of anticlimactic. There's a lot of build-up of a slow episode with not really much payoff, but the villains lose, the heroes win. Typical episode, but I just didn't care for Batman Stands Pat. It doesn't seem as fun or interesting as other episodes, and I give it a 2 out of 5. A couple good things with Alfred saved this episode from being really bad, but ultimately, I just don't feel Batman Stands Pat is that great. So 2 out of 5 for Batman Stands Pat, and as always, thank you very much for watching.